Now, if this is kind of going, whoo, or it's not computing, let me put it this way. Let me paint you a picture. If you were out on the battlefield, would you want a passive soldier in the foxhole with you, or would you want a violent soldier in the foxhole with you? Would you want Arnold Schwarzenegger with you? Like that? Yeah, that looks pretty good. Or would you like Pee Wee Herman with you? Let me ask you the question. Who are you more like, spiritually speaking? When it comes to doing spiritual battle, spiritual violence, spiritual aggressiveness is a good thing. If I am doing spiritual battle, I want a violent man in the foxhole with me. I want someone who knows how to be aggressive with their faith, someone who knows how to use the spiritual weapons that we have been given, not someone who is still sucking on their salvation binky, oblivious to the raging war that we are in. Do you see what I'm saying? I know this is heavy, but man, God has really been speaking to me about this. The Spirit of God on this vacation has said to me, Harv, you need to get rid of your pacifier and become a mighty warrior of the cross. Quit feeling so sorry for yourself. Get busy. Live out your name of being a battle warrior. Come on. You're 50. It's time to grow up spiritually. If I'm scaring some of you, I'm sorry. Come back next Sunday. It'll be a whole lot lighter. But I really do think, church, that it's time for us to put on the full armor of God and get aggressive in the spiritual realm. Because Jesus said, not Harv, Jesus said, hey guys, the kingdom of heaven is suffering violence. Now think about this. We can see the outward signs of the evil forces that are working in the world today, can't we? We can sense it and we can feel the war that is raging all around us. And rather than trying to ignore it or dismiss it, according to Jesus, we need to stand up and fight and take a risk of spiritual aggressiveness and violence. Because the evil that we are fighting against can only be combated by the power of God and those aggressive enough to use this power.
Amen.
Church, that's why we've done this whole series. This really is a summation of the series. When the teaching team got together to plan this blockbuster movie series, we all felt like the Spirit of God was challenging us as a church to take the next step and step out in greater measure and live out our mission statement of becoming fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ. And the reason that we have made this challenge is because Jesus said that it's going to take some to get the job done. And it's going to take some to apprehend and seize the kingdom of heaven and make it a reality in our lives and the lives of others as well. And it only makes sense that it would take some because Satan is going to fight us every step of the way. But here's our ace in the hole. Here's the good news. God has already promised us the victory, and God has given us everything we need for victory. We just have to be aggressive enough to take hold of what is ours for the taking.
Amen.
Amen.
We are at war, and being passive is not a viable option. We must risk spiritual violence. I'll be honest, I like that phrase. But for those of you who don't like that phrase, and it rubs you a little bit wrong, I understand that also. But I purposefully wanted to use this phrase because our tendency, let's just be honest, our tendency is to be so passive in our Christian lives. Now, you know what? If I ask you, you probably all have 5 to 10 things that you are so passionate about in your regular life. But then when we come to our Christian lives, we get real passive, right? I'll admit it, I'm an intense, passionate person. And I can tell you about a lot of areas in my life where I'm tense and passionate. But when it comes to being a Christian and fighting this good fight of faith, sometimes I've been so passive. So here's the thing, church. There is a time and a place to be passive, but not when it comes to spiritual warfare. And that's the point that Jesus is trying to make here. Now you might be thinking, well, Harv, I thought that Jesus was a man of love and a man of peace. That is true. Jesus was also very aggressive when it came to fighting spiritual warfare. Let me give you some examples. Remember when Jesus drove out the people who were ripping people off in the temple? He got pretty aggressive with them, didn't he? Remember how he blasted the religious people? He called them a pile of dead men's bones, and he referred to them as reptilian snakes, and he put them in their place. He got pretty intense with them, didn't he? Listen to this verse right from the Word. He's talking to his disciples, and Jesus says, "Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword." Sounds kind of violent, doesn't it? Every Sunday we talk about Jesus risking spiritual violence when we quote the Apostles' Creed, because our doctrine teaches us that Jesus descended into hell and defeated death, hell, and the grave. Now let me ask you this question. When Jesus died on the cross and he descended into hell and he took the keys of death, hell, and the grave from Satan, do you think that Satan just rolled over and said, "Here are the keys, Jesus, to death, hell, and the grave. Have a nice day"? No way. You see, on the cross and in the grave, Jesus was fighting for our salvation. He fought for our release from captivity to sin. Jesus risked spiritual violence to change our spiritual status and secure our eternal destiny. That makes me want to shout like an old-fashioned Nazarene. That's awesome. Now listen, church. Here's the thing. Here's why this is so important for us right now. If we as a church are going to change, be a part of changing the spiritual status of those around us, if we are going to be a part of changing the eternal destiny of those that are lost around us, we will have to follow Jesus' example, and we will have to risk spiritual violence and be like he was and become spiritually aggressive. Now let me stop for just a moment in case some of you are going, "Whew, Harv, you've lost me." I want to make sure that you understand what I'm saying. I am not, and you guys know me, I am not a Christian activist. I am not advocating that we ever get in people's face about our faith. In fact, I think for the most part we do far better when we just quietly live our Christian life before the world. So when I talk about spiritual violence and aggressiveness and being intense, spiritually speaking, I'm not talking about something that we do in the physical realm. I'm talking about something that we do in the spiritual realm. I'm talking about making war in the heavenlies. I'm talking about changing the spiritual dynamic of the world around us by being an active part of God's heavenly army. That's what I'm talking about.